welcome to Unwind and Knit with me. My name is Lisa. I'm coming to you from Christchurch in New Zealand, and this is my little part of the YouTube world where I talk to you about my knitting and my patterns and my yarn and anything related to knitting. So if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. If you're a new viewer to my channel, welcome. Please subscribe if you like the content, and yeah, sit back and relax and let's get into it. You can follow me on Instagram as Unwind and Knit with me, and also on Ravelry we have some chats. The community group is called Unwind and Knit with me, and at the moment under one of the chat threads called Challenges for 2022, we are running some giveaways, some prizes throughout the year, and the first prize will be drawn at the end of March. So I will have a winner for you on my next episode. So if you want to jump over there and say hello and just give us a brief rundown on what you're knitting this year or what your challenge is for this year in the way of your knitting or your crochet craft, any wool craft, but yeah, jump over there and join that thread and be in the draw to win. And of course, if you leave 2 comments or add to the thread, well then you'll have more chance of winning a prize because you'll be in there twice. So yeah, welcome to our little group over in Ravelry. Yeah, as I said, the first prize will be drawn at the end of this month, and then I'll do another one at the end of June and another one at the end of September. So every 3 months we'll have a prize to give away. I will just share with you what the prize is for our first giveaway. I did touch on it on my last episode, but I've been donated from Wild Earth 12 balls of this beautiful 8-ply, they call it Aspen, but it's our 8-ply Polworth. This yarn's all from my local district, and it's all dyed and spun here, quite close by here in the South Island of New Zealand. So I've got 12 balls of that. I did come across this pattern by Hohi Locatelli, and it's called Tui, and I did swatch for it, and this Aspen yarn would be perfect for this pattern. Now, I haven't worked out yet how to give away a pattern on Ravelry, but I'm sure I'll work it out. So I will, on that prize, I will include a copy of that pattern because I just think it would be perfect in that yarn. I've also got 2 knitting notebooks. And these are knitting notebooks that I purchased myself. I purchased quite a few of them, and they're little knitting journals. So I'm going to add those to the prize. And also this is amazing, and I have kept one for myself because I bought a couple. But it's a beautiful big tote bag from Petite Knits. And it says, "Get your knitting on," I think. Yeah, but it's a beautiful big canvas tote bag, which will hold all that beautiful yarn. And I will also include a set of my stitch cables. So you probably know about these, they're all over, they're available everywhere now. So they're just coloured silicone cables that you use to hold your stitches on. And I'll show you some of my works in progress because I'm actually using these at the moment. But I am going to include a packet or a tin of those stitch cables in that prize as well. So there's a few things there. On the subject of these, I'd just like to thank everybody that purchased them. So these are available through 2 retail outlets here in the Christchurch area, Willoughby's and Hands On, and they're 2 knitting retail stores out at Rangiora. And I will leave all the links below. So to everyone that's purchased them, thank you. And if you haven't purchased them yet, jump over onto their websites, and I know that they've both got them in stock, so you can purchase them. Yeah, so it's Hands On Sewing and Knitting in Rangiora and Willoughby's Wool Shop in Rangiora. But all the links for everything that I talk about will be in the description box below. It's a wee bit of housekeeping. There was one other thing, and this is a big thing. I just want to send out a big hug, a big virtual hug, and a great big thank you to everybody that has subscribed to my YouTube channel. On my last episode, which was about 14 days ago, we were around 930, and I sort of put the word out and said, wouldn't it be great to hit that big magic number of 1,000? And we did it. So on the weekend, my channel, Unwind and Knit With Me, has clicked over to 1,000 subscribers. So at the moment, we're just over 1,010. So thank you, a really big thank you to everybody that has subscribed and that has supported my channel, and to everybody that leaves really nice messages. I get lovely messages. I do read them all and I reply to them all. But thank you, because it really does give me confidence and encourages me. And I also want to say a big thank you to all of the New Zealanders that are actually overseas that have found my podcast. So I know that there's quite a few Kiwi knitters in the UK, in the States, in Canada, and also China and Japan, that have come through and left messages saying that they're abroad and they're a bit homesick, and so they really enjoy watching a Kiwi podcast. So hello to all of the Kiwis out there in whatever part of the world you're at, and welcome, and like I said, thank you to everybody. So the other thing is what I'm wearing. So I have shown you this because I knitted this last year, and I'm not actually sure if I've worn it on a podcast, but this is the Jupiter Crop by Caitlin Hunter. I will just stand up and show you so you can see. Oh, I've got fluff on me, but it's a wee nice little crop, and I knitted this in Rebel Destiny Light, which is from Outlaw Yarns. It's a local yarn store to me here in Christchurch. And what I wanted to say about this is when I first blocked it and worn it, I was a little bit disappointed. I thought the gauge was maybe a little bit too tight, and it was a little bit sort of rigid and stiff. But over the weekend, I did a bit of binge watching, and there's a few podcasts that I enjoy watching, and one of them is the girls from Espèce Tricot. I hope I've said that right. And they're in Canada. And one of the ladies talked about wet blocking in hot water. And everyone went, yeah, no, you can't do that. You can't block in hot water, it'll shrink. And she went on to reassure us that blocking in hot water is really quite a good thing. When she says hot water, she means tap temperature hot, so not boiling out of the jug, but as hot as you can get your water out of your tap. She said almost like hot bath water temperature. And what it does with these woolly wools, she said it helps to soften them and it makes them bloom, and it also removes any excess spinning oils, any oils that may still be in the yarn. And she showed a jersey that was very much like this. It had a real lot of colour work in it, so there was a lot of double stranding going on, and she talked about how it really softened the garment. So after watching that, I went straight up to my cupboard and I got this out and I soaked it in hot water with a bit of Eucalyptus wool wash. It's really important that you don't handle the garment too much, because it's the friction that will create felting. But she said just put it in hot water, give it a wee little bit of a massage, not too much, and then let it cool down and dry it in a towel and let it dry flat like you normally would after wet blocking. So I did that and I was really pleasantly surprised. So this is really softened. It feels more comfortable to wear. It feels a little bit more drapey, where before it felt a little bit rigid. And I'm really, really happy, because to be quite honest, I don't know that I would have got much wear out of it before. And now I feel really comfortable wearing it. So don't be afraid to wet block your garments in hot water. Just be careful not to handle them too much, because like I said, the friction can cause felting. And also don't use boiling water. We're talking hot temperature. And yeah, so if you can go back and watch, I'm not sure what episode it was, but it's one of the more recent ones where she talked about it. So yeah, that's my little tip. You can wet block in hot water, which I wouldn't have thought to do. Yeah, so now let's talk about my whips. I actually have quite a few whips, so yeah, sit back and let's go. Okay, the first whip I'm going to talk about is almost a finished object. It will definitely be a finished object before this weekend. It's my goal to have it finished. But it's my Ember by Yuku Shimizu. That's it there. Now I've been knitting on this for about 8 weeks now. I cast it on the 25th of January. So yeah, nearly 8 weeks. And I've nearly finished it. If you've watched my previous podcasts, I have talked about this as being a work in progress. And it's actually been a very big work in progress. I just want to say that I would recommend it for an experienced knitter or experienced colour work knitter, because it's not an overly hard project. It's definitely a big project, and it's definitely taken a lot of commitment. Let's say that. It has taken a lot of commitment from me, and I'll tell you why. First of all, the yarn I've used is from an indie dyer here in New Zealand called Yarn Therapy, and the colours I've used are Jeanette, which is this lovely like a terracotta colour. The blue is called Blue Steel, and I love this colour. You'll see why when I hold up the jersey. And the third colour is called Silver. So that's the yarn I've used, and here's my project. Now that blue that you can see in that photo there, that blue is just beautiful. It just looks so good against the silver and the terracotta. It's like a real sapphire jewel blue. I love it. Now, I have finished the sleeves, and as you can see, there's quite a bit of colour work and detail in those sleeves. Now, I have finished the band to the point that all I have to do is cast off, but I have just put it on my stitch holder cables. And the reason I've done this is because I do want to try it on one more final time when all the body's completed, because sometimes it can just change the way the sleeves drop. So I don't want to do that final cast off until I do my final try on. And the other reason is because I haven't yet decided what cast off that I'm going to use, whether I'm going to just do the basic cast off or whether I'm going to get a little bit more fancy. I could have very easily ended up on Sleeve Island with this project, and that's why I said to go into it you really have to be committed, because there's so much colour work. So I talked about in my last episode this section here that requires you to carry 3 strands, and sometimes you're carrying those 3 strands over about 15 stitches, so you've got to catch your floats every 4 or 5 stitches. And I did that on 720 stitches. So it took me a long time and a lot of commitment. When I got to the sleeves, I thought it'll be easy. I don't mind doing sleeves. They're small circumference. And I was really enjoying it because this here is just knit 2 in blue, knit 2, alternating the 2 colours. But then, of course, I got right down to the end here, and she threw in another section where I had to carry floats for 15 stitches. So once again, I was having to catch those floats every 5. And I really could have just thrown the towel in. I was just like, oh, are you kidding? But I persevered. And the reason I've really persevered is because I really want to wear this jersey. I have tried it on a couple of times and it looks amazing. The fit is amazing, the colours are amazing, and I really want to wear it. But I think if you started this project and didn't have that real desire to wear it, you could easily frog it or end up on Sleeve Island. because it really is a big project that's required a lot of dedication. So I finished both my sleeves, but just haven't cast them off, and I finished all the colour work in the body, and where I'm up to here is really just the band. I'm up to the band on the body, which is in this main colour, which is the Jeanette, that terracotta colour. But the band is about 4 inches, and it's twisted rib, where you purl one, knit into the back, purl one, knit into the back. So once again, it's slow going. Everything about this pattern is slow going. None of it was easy, relaxing TV knitting. Every section of it required me to follow a graph and to read the pattern. So none of it was relaxing knitting. And doing this band now is probably the most relaxing that it's got, because it really is just knit one, purl one. But because I'm knitting into the back, I find I'm quite slow at doing that twisted rib. But I really am on the home straight now. So I'm going to do my band to about the 3.5, 4 inches. I'll try it on, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be really happy with it, and then I'll cast it off. But yeah, like I said, I would definitely recommend. I wouldn't knit it again, not in a hurry, not at all. I would recommend it if it's something that you know you're going to love, and I really know that I'm going to love this. So I just want to, I'm sure you can see that. The other thing I struggled a little bit with is that it's not in a tight gauge, and it's superwash yarn, so it's quite slippery, and the stitches are quite slippery. And the more I knitted it, the more I just had a real longing to want to go back to my Marie Wallen jersey, which is that real woolly wool that's really grippy. I really need a break from superwash yarn. But in saying that, I know that I would never have got this colour blue or this colour terracotta in a non-superwash yarn. So that's the trade-off, and that's what I kept telling myself, that this blue and this terracotta is so amazing that, like I said, I don't think I would have got those real rich jewel tones of that blue in a non-superwash. So that's where I am with that. Now, one big modification that I will talk about quickly. So in the first part of this sleeve, that's just stocking stitch, and I've got to say, it's the only part of straight stocking stitch in the whole pattern, and it said to do 54 rounds. Now, I knew that that was going to make my sleeve too long, and I didn't want a long sleeve because this top is quite light and airy. It's not a heavy winter jersey, that I wanted it sort of more bracelet length. So this was 54, I only did 20. So that was quite a reduction. I did less than half of what was required, because it did give me the measurements for that colour work. So I did a bit of calculation, and when I tried it on, the sleeves sit right there near my bracelet. So I'm really happy with that modification that I made. I'm really happy that I've shortened the length of those sleeves, but it's quite substantial. I've shortened them by 34 rounds. So if you are going to do this, just do a bit of calculating when you get to your sleeves on whether you want a short sleeve, a mid-length sleeve, or a long sleeve, because this would have been a very long sleeve had I done it according to the pattern. So I think that's really the only modification that I made. I'm just looking at my notes. It is the only modification that I made, but definitely I think well worth it. There's that pattern there again. I'll leave the link to this pattern in my show notes, and I'll also leave a link to Yarn Therapy if you're wanting to have a look at the actual yarn that I used to do that project. Let's have a cup of tea. This is actually not like me because I'm a coffee drinker, but I've already had 2 cups of coffee this morning in about 2.5 hours, so I better make a cup of tea. It's actually herbal tea as well. So it's a bit not like me. So with that really big project, I'm pinching someone else's term here, but I suffered cast-on-itis. I needed to cast on some new projects, and I wanted to cast on some simple, nice, easy, relaxed knitting over the last week. And had I not cast on the new things, I would have had that finished by now, as a side note, but I have cast on a few new things. Now this one here I have talked about. I've told you I've wanted to cast it on, and it's an Isabel Kramer pattern, and I'm going to say Fajola, but somebody did point out to me that it could be pronounced Fiola, like with a silent J. So I really don't know. I'm not good with languages and pronunciations. But this is a paid-for pattern on Ravelry by Isabel Kramer. And we all know Isabel Kramer. Her patterns are just so wearable. It's probably the best way I would describe them. They just seem to be made for everybody. And made for every occasion. I just love her patterns. So I had this yarn that I bought last year. I bought a couple of cones from the Woolly Thistle out of the United States. And this is what they call a 5-ply Guernsey yarn. So the best to my knowledge to describe it, it's just a British breeds, UK breeds, hard-wearing, good honest wool. In the cone it does feel very hard wearing. That's probably the best way to describe it. Not scratchy, but it doesn't feel like a super soft merino at all. So I did knit up my swatch, and I've got to say that when I blocked my swatch, the wool does feel a lot softer, and I don't think I'm going to have a problem wearing that close to my skin at all. I think it is will be soft to skin. Yeah, soft. Now the stitch definition, I'm going to show you that. The stitch definition is beautiful. It's really crisp. The holes I've done there is so as I know what needle size I used. So that's 1, 2, 3. So it's a US 5. And we don't use the US sizing system here in New Zealand. But you can't really do a 3.5 or a 3.75. So I used the US sizing to indicate what size needle I used. Once again, that's not my idea. I copied that off someone else. I think the Grocery Girls. I think Tracy from the Grocery Girls does that. But that's my swatch. I was really happy with it. So I cast on. They're the two shoulders. And I'm just loving it. Like I said, the stitch definition, be one of those days, is that show? Yeah, that's showing up. It's just really lovely. It's really crisp. Now this pattern's got lace work down the whole length of the sleeve, and what I really love here, let's see if I can get that and show you that. Yeah, and what I really love here is how the increase left and increase right actually creates that faux seam line. Yeah, it's just really effective, and I'm really enjoying this because the lace work, it's only a 6 row repeat, and the rest of it's just stockinette stitch. It was a real palette cleanser is the best way to describe it. After working on my Ember, I just needed something nice and crisp and one colour, and I'm really enjoying that, and I actually think I'm really going to whip through that. So yeah, that's my my second whip, which I'm going to work on getting through. My next whip, I'm really disappointed to say it's actually been going since last year, and the reason I'm disappointed is because I don't know why it's taken me so long to knit a pair of socks, and I haven't completed them. I've only finished the one. So this is this beautiful self-striping yarn from Narrative Yarns. She's also based here in Christchurch. Self-striping, love the colours, and I'm doing an ankle sock, which I've never done before. So I'm up to the rib, and I really could have sat there for 15 minutes and finished this and got it off the needles, but I got sidetracked and I forgot. And what I've decided to do is do the white at the top of my ankle sock, because I wear ankle socks with my white casual shoes, so I thought it'd be nice just to have the white showing at the top of the shoe rather than having a pink or a green show. So really happy with those. This is just it's a free pattern on Ravelry called Toe Up Socks with a Difference. I'll leave the link below, and it's really just a vanilla sock. It's Judy's Magic Cast On for the toe, knit up, do the gusset, slip stitch heel. It's my go-to pattern, but I really want to make an effort over the next couple of months of knitting, getting some more socks knitted. Personally, I don't need any long socks. I've got a drawer full. I do need ankle socks, but I would like to knit some more for my husband and my daughter and my daughter's partners. So I am really going to make an effort to get these done and to spend some more time, even if I just spend half an hour a day on getting some socks done. So that's only sock one, and I have cast on sock too, but I've just really done the cast on. So that's my second work in progress. No, that's my third work in progress. This fourth work in progress is fun, and it's really exciting. Now, last week I showed you this great big ball of chunky yarn from Wild Earth Yarns, and this comes in this big ball. It's 900 grams and it's around $45, and I wanted to do a big chunky blanket, a throw, just for the back of the lounge or the end of the bed for winter, throw over your feet. So I went and bought myself just some Addy cable needles, and they're a 15mm. So these are huge. These are bigger than my thumb, like huge. I've never knitted with anything so big, and I'm just over halfway, and that's it. It's just beautiful. I've had so much fun. I am going to insert a little video of me knitting. It's not at all difficult. Because it's a cable, all the weight just sits on my lap. You probably wouldn't want to be doing it on a hot summer's day. And it's fun. Just knit, knit, knit. It's just like learning to knit again, and it's just fun and relaxing, and it's so quick, and I think it's stunning. And a friend of mine sent me through a link of a blanket like this in a designer, like an interior designer shop, and it was no bigger than what this is going to turn out to be, and they were selling them for $245. Serious, $245 for exactly what I've just done here. So I think all my girls are going to get one of these for Christmas this year. I'm going to knit a couple. This yarn came in 3 shades, so it was the natural cream, the white sheep, the grey sheep, and then a dark brown. So it's just the 3 natural colours, dark brown, grey and cream. And what I did is I started here with cast on 1 stitch, and then every second row I did a knit through the back, knit through the front, increase on each end, and then every alternate row just knit, and then back again I would increase. And I did that increase to form a triangle right up to the point where my ball of yarn weighed 450 grams. So yeah, I just kept an eye on the weight, and as soon as I reached about 460 grams I've started to do an decrease, and all I'm doing there is knit 1, knit 2 together at each end on every second row. So you can see there, that's where I reached my biggest point, and now I'm just working on the increase. A lot of fun. It's a novelty. It's I don't know what to say about it actually, except that it's actually a real lot of fun for really something that's going to knit up really quickly, but also something that I think is really stylish. So even if you've got people in your family that don't like hand knits or don't want to wear hand knits, but you want to knit them something, knit them a rug, knit them a throw. I think they're amazing. So I will leave the link. You can purchase that yarn online from Wild Earth Yarns. The needle, that Addy 15mm cable needle, I actually just nipped down town and bought that from Spotlight. Your local yarn stores may keep them. I can't imagine they'd sell a lot of 15mm cable needles, but they're not hard to get. So if you can't get them at your local yarn store, I got that in Spotlight, so you'll definitely be able to get that. So they're my 4 whips. My socks, my blanket. Oh, one more. I have got one more. And it's just a very new cast on. I have been watching Selma from Little Big Knits, and she's from Canada, and she's one of my favourite podcasters. I've got half a dozen or so that I watch, and most of them are from Canada, Finland, America. But yeah, if you haven't watched Selma from Little Big Knits, pop over and watch. She's really good. Now I was watching her, and it was an old episode, or an older episode, and she talked about these skirts that she'd been knitting. And she got my attention, because about 2 years ago I even said to my friends in my knit group, I want to knit myself a skirt, but really didn't know where to start, didn't know what sort of yarn that I would need to use, given that it would stretch around the bottom, and you know, I just didn't have the confidence to just cast on a skirt. But Selma did, and the skirt that she has got here is, it's me all over. I'd wear this with tights, exactly the same style that she's wearing it, and that's it there. So it's just a very plain stockinette stitch with a 2x2 rib. Might be a 3x3, I haven't got that far, rib at the bottom. And what she's done here, it's called West Village Skirt Recipe. So instead of calling it a pattern, she's called it a recipe. Because what she's done is she's given you the instructions or the recipe to do your own calculations. So you do your swatch, which I did, this is my swatch. And I did that in stocking stitch and in rib, there. And then, and there's my holes, you can see there. So I did that on a US 4 needle. And then you work out your stitch gauge and your row gauge. And I can't remember the exact maths, but you then work out your waist measurement in inches. So if your waist is 30 inches and your gauge is 5 inches, you multiply your 30 by 5, which gives you 150, and that's how many stitches you cast on. And then you do the same thing for your hips. So your hip measurement's normally a lot bigger. Well, not a lot bigger. In my case, a little bit bigger than it should be. But you measure your hip measurement, and then you multiply that by your stitches per inch. So then you know how many stitches you want for your hip. And then you measure the distance from your waist to your hip, and you calculate how many stitches you need to increase. So it's gradual. So I can't remember the exact maths, but you may do an increase round every 5 rows until you get to your hip measurements, and then you just knit down. And like I said, it's just stockinette stitch. For the band, I've gone down half a needle size, and I'm doing quite a tight gauge for the band. And then I've only just started it, as you can see. It's quite a tight gauge. And then I'm going to fold that down on itself. So I've got a band, and I'm going to thread elastic through that just to give the waist, just so it sits a little bit nicer on the waist. And I'm going to knit myself a skirt. And I think it's going to knit up quite quickly. Selma does talk on her podcast, but also in this pattern, about yarn choice. So the yarn choice is really important, and this is what bothered me, is that I thought if I used something that was too drapey or didn't have good memory, you'd end up with a saggy bottom. So when you sat down, your fabric would stretch, and I could just picture in my head that I'd have this skirt with a saggy bottom, and no one wants a saggy bottom. So she does talk about how to choose the right yarn for this project, and I have chosen a commercial yarn that's available in most yarn stores. I know here in Australia it's called Clackheaton Naturals 8 ply, but it's 85% wool, but it's 10% acrylic and 5% viscose. So I'm hoping that that's just got enough structure in that yarn and memory in the wool to work well for a skirt. But I'll let you know. Like I said, I think this will be, once again, a quick knit. It's just, once I finish that band, it's just straight down. And I just think it will be an amazing piece, an amazing addition to my wardrobe. So that's it there. So that, with a pair of tights and a pair of boots, got my name all over it. And that's a paid for pattern on Ravelry by Selma, and it's called West Village Skirt Recipe. She named it West Village, she said, because that's her local shopping centre where she shops. So that was quite nice. So yeah, paid for pattern on Ravelry, but I'm going to leave the link below in my description in case I can inspire you to knit a skirt. So if you're over our side of the world, we're going into our winter. We're in autumn at the moment. So yeah, I thought it was a good time to show that. Going into our winter. Let's have another cup of tea. And I do recommend her podcasts. They're really nice podcasts. Okay. The other thing that I got thinking, as I do, we are heading into our winter, and in our winter I do wear a lot of singlets underneath my jerseys, and I was going through my drawers thinking I needed some new singlets, and I often wear just sort of a merino blend singlet, and it occurred to me that, wow, Lisa, why don't you knit your own? So I have seen a few patterns around with singlets, and especially with this jersey that I'm doing, my Ember, it's a really loose fitting boxy garment, and I thought even if it's not a cold day but just a coolish day, I'm going to need something under it against my body. So I found myself a pattern, and it's called the Ripple Bralette, and the reason I like this because it's really quite adaptable. So that's it there. This is by Jessie Maid. Now the reason I like this is, number one, it's I think it's a 3x3 rib, and of course I would do it a lot longer than that. I would do the body a full body length, but also these little straps, which I do quite like. On the project page I looked at quite a few projects, and you can actually cross them over at the back, so you don't have that problem. Sometimes with little skinny straps you're always sort of pulling them up on your shoulder, they slip down. So I think that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to follow the pattern as is, but I'm going to cross the straps at the back and add some length. So that's the Ripple Bralette by Jessie Maid Designs, a paid for pattern on Ravelry. I'm sure I said that, now I'm repeating myself. So that's a little singlet, and I am going to cast this on. And once again, like I said, I think I'm erring towards some really simple knits at the moment, which is okay because that's a big knit. But of course, when I started thinking about knitting myself singlets or undergarments, I had to think about what yarn that I would use. And I jumped onto the website for Purple Sprouting. I've talked about this yarn, well, not this yarn, but this indie dyer quite a lot. She has changed her labels. They're quite neat. well done. So she has changed the image on her labels. But I wanted just some, not dull colours, but nice, soft, pastel-y, neutral colours to wear as undergarments. But I also wanted something really soft, close to skin. So this one here, I thought I'd tell you about. The range is Austral, and it's 50% silk, 50% merino. And let me just look at my notes. I did write. Yeah, so it's 400 meters. It's $46. So it's not a cheap yarn, but I actually think I'm going to get 2 singlets out of one of these. And at most, or at least, I thought if I don't get 2, I'll get 1 for myself and then more of a cropped one for my daughter. So it's not the cheapest yarn, but it's merino silk, so beautiful, soft skin, and that's what I thought I wanted for undergarments. That colourway is actually called Life in a Glass House, and it's really pretty. It's super soft, so if you're after something merino silk super soft, pop over and have a look. The other one I got is actually 100% merino. But it's a 3-ply twist, so really nice stitch definition. It shouldn't have much fluffing or pilling, and it's 100% soft merino, and it's $32, so it is a little bit cheaper, and that's from her range Krypton. It's 400 meters, yeah, $32. That colourway there is called Bluebell, which is really pretty. So I'm going to put these aside for my singlets. And that's the other thing I wanted to say about those singlets. Amazing pattern for all of those single skeins that you have at home. You know, those beautiful skeins that we buy from Woolfest or yarn shows, and they're one-ofs and they look beautiful on our shelves, but we don't know what to do with them. So I really wanted to mention that this pattern would be ideal for all those single skeins that you've got at home. I didn't have anything with sort of silk or soft, so I needed to buy some. But that was my train of thought when I was looking at that pattern. I mentioned it to a couple of my friends and they all agreed, yep, everyone would have that one single skein at home in their stash. That would be ideal to do that project. I also think I just needed a bit of retail therapy. I probably didn't need to buy new skeins of wool. It's nearly the end of March, so I've done well. I haven't bought anything this year, I don't think. But I did buy those. And the other one that I bought, because then I started thinking close to skin, undergarment, luxury soft. That's what I wanted, and that's all I kept thinking about it. I want a luxury fibre that's super soft. And this is another indie dyer from Auckland. Mariana, I think her name is, but Strawberry Patches Yarn. She also does a podcast, so hop over and have a look, and it's under Strawberry Patches. But this yarn is in its natural colour, so it's not dyed, and it's non-superwash. So that is what attracted me. It's 50% mulberry silk and 50% yak. So I'm talking super, super luxurious yarn. And it's expensive. It was $46. But you only need one. And like I said, you may even get, if you're just doing a little crop singlet, you'll probably get 2 out of one of these skeins. I'm going to do full body length, so I'll probably only get 1, but then a cropped one for my daughter. But I do think this is a really luxurious yarn. So hop over if you haven't had a look at her website. It's Strawberry Patches, and I will leave the link below. But they're my acquisitions. Only 3. I promise, only those 3. And they're for my singlets. So that's my acquisitions. I do have a new pattern to show you though. The other thing I thought I'd put out there is I have struggled to find a website for somebody here in New Zealand or even Australia, because that's not too far away as far as postage goes, that makes really good project bags. I just haven't found anyone. I have found a couple, but they're on Etsy shops, and when I've gone on to have a look at them, the freight to get them to me is nearly the value of the bag, so that's just pointless. That's ridiculous. But I do watch a lot of podcasts, and the knitters always show that the project bag that they store their project in. And I haven't done that because a lot of my project bags aren't very interesting. They're just bags that I've accumulated over the years. Some I don't know where I got them from. There's not really a story behind them for me to share them with you. But I'd love to get my hands on some really nice project bags. So I know of one lady in New Zealand called In Stitches, but she doesn't have a website. But yeah, I thought I'd put that out there to you. If you're in New Zealand and you know of somebody that does some really nice bags, and they've got a website that I can go on and have a look at them, leave a note in the comments below, and yeah, I'd be really keen to see. I'm sure they're out there, I just haven't found them. And the other thing, a few episodes ago I told you about, I got my spinning wheel out and I dusted it off, and I've been doing a wee bit of spinning. I got a 100-gram sliver and I weighed it into two 50-gram lots. So there's my first 50 grams. I'm really happy with it. And then I've got my other 50 grams still on the wheel here. But I actually lacked a bit of confidence when it come to plying them together, because it's been over 10 years since I've really used my spinning wheel. So I'm going to go down to Ashford's in Ashburton. So I know that my viewers in America and Canada would probably be familiar with the Ashford spinning wheel because they're world famous. But I feel really quite lucky and quite blessed that I actually have the Ashford's store and factory only about an hour away from where I live. And because of COVID, they're not doing classes at the moment. But they have said to me, just come on down, bring your wheel. You can sit in the shop with your mask on, and I'll show you how to ply the two together. And it's not really a class, but she'll just be there in the background to give me advice when I need it. So I'm really quite excited about that. And I don't think I'm going to get down there this week, but I'm hoping the week after, which means that I should have this plied together for my next episode. So yeah, that's something to look forward to. I'm looking forward to it. And what I'm really hoping is to try to learn that when you ply them together so they look a bit like a barbershop pole, a bit like spin cycle, you know, when you get the two. That's what I'm hoping to achieve with my hand-dyed yarn. And I know it can be done because I watch Andrea Mowry on Knit and Spin If I Want To, and she's produced some beautiful yarn from hand spinning. But I also know that she goes to quite a few classes to learn to do it, which is what motivated me to don't wing it, is what I said to myself. Don't just wing it because you're going to ruin the work that you've already done. Get some guidance. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to nick down to Ashford's and get that done. I come across a new pattern that I purchased. And I haven't got the yarn for it, and I don't plan on knitting it in the real near future. But it's a new release, and it's by Sari Nordland. And I really like Sari Nordland's patterns. I have knitted a couple of them, but this one was called the Foxberry. And I just love that lace work, the stitch detail in the yoke. And the sleeve, see there. So you can do this in a DK weight, or you can two fingering held together. But that it's a nice pattern if you're after something. I like to share those with you. Yeah, so that's the Foxberry by Sari Nordland. I'll leave the Ravelry link to that below as well, in case you want to go on and have a look at it. Oh, that was the other thing too, Wild Earth yarns. So I talked about them in my last episode, but that's where this yarn's from. And it's also where the yarn is from that I'm donating for our giveaway. But I did want to mention they do have a factory shop. But if you live local here in Christchurch, they're only open Tuesday and Friday, 12 to 2, and Saturday, 10 to 2. So if you are in Christchurch or you're visiting Christchurch and you want to go out and see them, check their website first, because they don't open very often, and they're only open for sort of 2 hours at a time, or 4 hours on a Saturday. So I did want to mention that. Now, I am getting close to the end, which is good. I showed you this pattern last week, and it's by Knitting for Breakfast, and it's called IRO. I-R-O. Like I said, my pronunciation's probably wrong. But it's this lovely colour work, top down, yoke style, crop top. It's got my name all over it. And you've got the option of short sleeve or long sleeve. And it's in a 4-ply, which also appeals to me, sort of a fingering weight yarn. And she's got the pattern written up for 8 colours, so it's a really good stash buster. And she talks about that. You may just have 8 random skeins in your stash that just somehow go together, and you could knit this jersey. Now, I last year purchased yarn from Hulst Yarn in, I can't remember if it's Norway or Denmark. Might be Denmark. But I wanted to show this to you because you can buy it here in New Zealand. Now, there's a store in Auckland. I wrote it down in my notes. Knit and Stitch in Auckland, and they sell this Hulst yarn, which is what I bought direct, but you can buy it, and it's $10.50 for a cake, and it's called their Super Soft, and there's 287 meters in one of these cakes. I bought a color selection, and it occurred to me when I showed you that pattern in my last episode. Afterwards, I was putting my patterns away, and the light bulb moment. I thought, I've got all that Hulst yarn in a beautiful range of colours, would be perfect for that pattern. So in the pattern, she's, I'll go through the colours. So she calls for a light grey, which I've got that one. A light pink, so I had that one. An orange, which I didn't have, but I have decided to use a yellow. A blue, it's quite a rich blue. A violet, which I had. She has got here a water green, which I had that green. A dark pink, love that colour. It's like real fuchsia pink, isn't it? And a dark grey. And when I saw that list of colours, I just knew I had them in my stash. So I was really excited because I can actually knit this pattern from yarn out of my stash. Now, so those 8 colours, they're $10.50 each. I did work it out that you only need 1 ball of each to do right up to about an extra large. So the first half of the colour of the size range, you only need 1 ball of each. If you were going into the second half of the size range, you may need a second ball of some of the colours. But either way, it's under $100, and I kind of figured that's not a bad price point for such a beautiful project. I'm not going to be able to show you them all. Oh, yeah, maybe I can. They're all the 4 colours together. But I was really excited to remember that I did actually have a pattern that I could match up with my yarn. Quite often that's all it takes, isn't it? Just a bit of time to sit down with some patterns and to really have a good look at your yarn stash. And 9 times out of 10, you've got the yarn for the project without having to purchase yarn. So I just thought I'd put that out there. Yeah, if you've got a pattern there, yeah, have a good look at your stash, because chances are you have actually got something that would work. And to be quite honest, I had probably enough single skeins of random 4-ply or fingering weight yarn that I could have done that pattern without even going to my my horse yarn stash. So I just thought I'd share that with you. I don't know when I'll cast it on. I've got a few things on the go, but like I said, that old cast-on-itis sneaks in every now and then, and you just got to get something new on your needles, which is actually quite a pain sometimes, because I was looking for some needles the other day. I've got a couple of sets of my where are my needles? Hang on, mental block. Maybe I do need that third cup of coffee. I couldn't remember what I was trying to say. Chalgoo, that's what I was trying to say. I have got a couple of sets of Chalgoo interchangeables, but I've also got quite a decent selection of the fixed cable Chalgoo needles. But it's really frustrating when you've got to cast something on and you've never got the right size needle, because you have too many whips. And yeah, because I do knit with a lot of fingering, so I do use a lot of 3.25 and 3.5 and 3.75. So that's the downside of having too many whips on the go at once, is you don't always have the needles. I had to ring a friend and say, have you got a 3.5 I can borrow? So I think that's just about everything. I've covered everything. I did just want to remind you again of these stitch cables. They come in different colours. So they're a silicone cable that you put on the end of your needle and slide your stitches on and off, and they're a real game changer. They're a must-have, I think, in everyone's knitting bag. I just love them, and I use them now all the time to hold stitches, so I can try things on. If I need the needles for something else, I just whip the stitches onto a cable. But I did just want to say again, thank you to everybody that has purchased them. But if you haven't and you do want some, I will leave the links below. So that's Willoughby's and Hands On. They're the 2 stores at Rangiora that are stocking those. And our Ravelry group, please jump over onto the Ravelry thread, 2022 challenges, for a chance to win that lovely prize that I showed you with the that yarn. I wanted to say also was donated by Wild Earth Yarns. That was a donation. The Petite Knits knitting journals and the project bag are gifts from me that I've purchased and that I am re-gifting. Well, not re-gifting, I'm gifting them. So, and once again, thank you to every single 1,000 people that subscribe to my channel. I'm seriously humbled and grateful, and you've certainly given me confidence to keep knitting, keep researching what I knit, and to keep bringing it to you every 2 to 3 weeks on this podcast. So thank you. Share it with your friends. Press the like button. If you haven't already subscribed and you like the content, then please subscribe, and we'll keep making that number get a bit higher. That'll be exciting. And that's it. That's it. I just want to say a big thank you and wish you all well, whatever part of the world you are in at the moment. Stay safe, because we've still got this terrible variant of Omicron in our community. It hasn't touched our household yet, fingers crossed. My husband and I and my daughter, who's actually a nursing student, we so far haven't been touched by Omicron. But in saying that, I think it's a matter of time. Our turn will come. But yeah, stay safe, stay happy, be kind to one another, and keep knitting. Happy knitting, everyone, and thank you, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.